This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 553 for April 15th, 2018. Coming up on today's show, what if my metamour won't meet me? It's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Minx, and I'm here with Lusty Guy today.
My favorite co-host, sitting in one more time.
And also the kitty, but she is currently not making any noise. You may hear her a little bit later. Nope, she's bored. She's gone.
She may be back, as is the nature of cats.
It's true. Well, we have all kinds of good stuff to talk about in the host chat segment today, don't we?
We do. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about all show. This might be a long one.
It might be a long one, yeah. Well, I haven't published for 2 weeks, so...
We got to make up.
We got stuff building up. We came back last weekend from Southwest Love Fest in Tucson. That was a lot of fun, and not just because it was 85 degrees and sunny, and it was 45 degrees and rainy in Seattle.
That was nice.
That was a nice perk.
You got to say that was nice.
Yeah, anytime you want us back Southwest Love Fest, we are there.
Or, places where it's sunny and warm.
Yes.
But having said that, Southwest Love Fest itself was a great show. A lot of people had a really good time. We met some amazing folk, had a really good time hanging out with Ruby and hanging out with Kevin and hanging out with
Anita
Wagner and Dr. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And
Eli Sheff and
I'm sure I'm going to forget people.
Diana Ryan.
Yeah.
And
who looked amazing.
Yeah, she always looks amazing. Damn.
So, yes, it was a great show.
Joe Pred.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Alan from Polly in the News.
Who, yes, had a lot of fun with Alan. So It was a good show, had some great ideas, met some neat people, had the opportunity to present a couple of classes. And, really thanks a lot for having us. It was much fun.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun for both of us. Totally exhausting weekend, but totally worth it. And you might be hearing a couple interviews with some people that caught us up on their projects and that we'll be bringing on the show. We always get awesome, good content from the people we meet, finding out what they're working on. We'll also be at RelateCon at the end of the month, back in Boise.
That's
April
right.
25th to the 27th.
Is that the dates?
Those are the dates.
Wow, I believe not very far away. And we'll be premiering a brand new class that they specifically at Ginger asked us to do there.
The Art of the Breakup.
The Art of the Breakup.
Which is funny because we had brunch this morning with Iris Miscarella, whom we have had on the show. She was here in town for Solo PolyCon.
And who is wonderful.
And who is absolutely wonderful. And I hear her keynote and talk went really, really well. And she was asking about breaking up and how that works. And we're like, we're working on a class on that right now.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I got to say, as we walked away from that brunch with Iris, it was really funny because we were walking away and I was like, damn, if she lived a little closer, I might think about a crush. And then both Elle and Minx went, yeah. So Iris, there might be a little bit of crushing going on over here, just a little bit.
But, you're lazy with your crushes. You're like, long distance, that's too hard.
I am lazy with my crushes. I'm generally lazy. If you want to know the big thing about Lusty Guy could have easily been Lazy Guy.
And you want to do a pitch for travel and
that's right.
Us?
So here's the thing, everybody. We are now almost completely booked for our no honorarium travel for 2018. We have one more show in 2018 that we can go to where we will not request an honorarium, just the travel expenses and the housing. After that, we request honorariums. So if you want to see us in 2018, you better be getting that request in soon, unless you want to pay an honorarium, which is great.
That means basically I have one vacation day left and it's all yours.
Yep, that's what that means.
Our topic today, we actually had 2 listeners write in with 2 different yet similar questions. So I thought, hey, let's do another metamour episode. You know how I love metamour episodes.
Well, everybody's always wondering about them.
Yeah, it's true. So the first one is from Nick from New Orleans, who writes, my partner, a young woman, and I, a young man / non-binary person, have been dating for about 8 months. We've been non-monogamous the whole time. So far, she has had 2 guys she would see a few times a week and have sex with and go on dates with. Both of these guys were reluctant to meet me. But she would basically break up with him before it got really serious. And he really wants to meet his metamours. So he asks, do you have any advice or resources for somebody whose partner's lovers don't want to meet them?
That's a sticky one.
It is.
Because it involves overlapping rights,
yes.
really, here. So here's my put. And I'm going to go first this time because I never do. And I just happen to. I always wait for you to go and then I can say whatever you said and build off that. It makes me look smart. This time I'll go first and you can go second and you'll look smart.
You realize the last episode you went first every single time, right?
No, I don't remember that. Speaking of not looking smart, I'm going to hit this legal to hit joint here in Washington State one more time because I have one memory cell left to kill in there, I'm sure. No. Let's get to the advice, shall we?
Sorry, it's hard to be serious when my cat's chewing my earphones.
Oh, this is a good episode for y'all this week. Okay, so first
Nick
of
from
all,
New Orleans.
So Nick, at the first level, what you really need to do is figure out your own personal boundary and how important it is to you. So if you feel a need to meet your metamours, you need to be able to articulate that to your partner and let them know, this is the way I play this game, and how important it is to you, how much you're willing to do in regards to this. That's the first level. The second level is the kind of truism that the group has to move at the pace of its slowest member. And you can't force anybody to meet you. It's just never going to work. So there's a little bit of a balance here. The way I approach this is that I tell all my partners, I need to have contact information for my metamours, your other lovers, and to know that it's okay if I need to contact them because one of us is in the emergency room. And that when we get in the emergency room, we'll all be friendly with each other. And then they communicate that to their partner, to their lovers, and I get phone numbers, and we have at least that much going on. We don't all have to be friends, but we have to be able to interact at least that much. And if that wasn't true, if somebody wasn't willing to do that for me, then I don't think any of my partners would ever actually engage with them because they know that that's what I want and they support that. So figure out what your limit is and express that to your partner to get her on your side and supporting you so that you're not discovering after she's dating somebody that they don't want to meet you, but she can bring it up beforehand, assuming that she supports you. So the long-winded answer was given. The shorthanded version is, at some level, you kind of got to suck it up. If they don't want to meet you, you can't force them to. But you also have to think about what your own personal limit is and what you're going to do in the light of that.
This is one of the occasions where I really love to refer to the Relationship Bill of Rights. And yes, I'll provide a link in the show notes. So one of the bullet points in the Relationship Bill of Rights is you have the right to choose the level of involvement and intimacy you want with your partner's other partners. Now, as Lusty Guy said, the caveat is, so do your partner's other partners.
That's right.
They also get to choose.
They also get to choose how much they want to be involved.
Which is why I bring up another bullet point. You have the right to seek compromise. Right? And which is tricky if your metamours won't fucking talk to you.
Absolutely.
So you do have the right to do that. One of the things I would point out is you need to know what your own personal boundaries are. You know, I'm not a big fan of rules, especially not making rules against what other grown-ass adults should be able to do. However, well, because most grown-ass adults don't really follow rules made by other people.
Nope.
But it's really important for you to know how important this is to you. You folks probably know that I learned a long time ago that I cannot be happy in a relationship if I cannot meet and talk with my metamours. Now, we don't have to be best friends, but I need a little bit more than the contact information that Lusty Guy needs. I need to be able to call them every now and then with a question or a problem. I need to be able to go on a walk with them if there's time. I just need to be able to have conversations with them when conversations are important. It does not work for me to be in a relationship where I cannot have that contact. So I know early on, if I meet somebody and their metamour doesn't want to meet me, guess what? We're not dating. It's just not going to happen. I know I need that. We all have things that we learned through trial and error that we simply can't have in our relationships. And for me, this is one of those things. Now, as Lustig Guy said, this is for you to decide. Is this a nice to have or is this a must have?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You need to figure out your exact shape on this boundary and communicate it to your partner, who then needs to figure out what she wants to do about that. But the odds are good with most reasonable boundaries and most supportive partners. When you communicate them, your partners want to help you with that and want to live within ways that are going to make everybody comfortable. That's what you're looking for in a relationship. So if you can figure out and be like, you know what, here's the deal. I don't need to be buddies, but I need to be able to reach out to your metamours if something goes wrong, or I need to be able to reach out to your metamours and just do a touch-in every once in a while so we all know we're here and sane like Mink wants. Figure that out, communicate it to your partner.
Mm-hmm. And accept no for an answer.
That's right. They have a right to say no.
Exactly. If the answer is no, you may choose to stay anyway, or you may choose to leave the relationship.
Ultimately, that is what it comes down to.
We also got an email from Rose, who is a straight cis woman who's poly newbie. She has 2 partners. One is local, and another partner, Greg, lives a few hours away. And his partner, Alice, is monogamous in another state and basically, quote, tolerates Rose's existence and has flat out refused to meet Rose. She writes, Greg and Alice met because they're both serious members in the same national organization, a group that Greg has gotten me into at a casual level. Before the 2 of them started seeing each other, Greg invited me to an event next month that lasts the whole weekend, and I was excited. I was happy to be included in something that's so important to him. But Alice will also be attending this event, and tonight Greg told me that Alice has asked him to uninvite me because she doesn't want to meet me, quote, until we, that would be Rose and Greg, break up. As long as he and I are in a relationship, I'm not allowed to be at events where she will also be present, even if he is spending the bulk of his time with her. So she acquiesced, right? She said, look, it's not that important to me. Fine, go ahead and have the weekend yourself. But she writes, I do mind. I mind because I feel like she's trying to push me out of his life. She knows that she can't give him an ultimatum and make him break off our relationship, but if she can keep putting restrictions on his time with me, our relationship may just die on its own. Eventually, I'll get tired of being treated less important. I care about Greg. I enjoy my time with him. I know he feels the same. But I'm finding it difficult to know how to approach this. I don't want to make him choose between us, but that puts me at a disadvantage since that's the game Alice is playing. I'm also submissive, so I tend to want to please and make everybody happy, but this is frustrating and I can see where it's headed. So what do I do? How do I respect his other relationship, but without becoming a doormat? How do I find a balance between compersion and being pushed aside?
Your turn to go first.
Okay. Well, once again, I'm going to point to the Relationship Bill of Rights, and there are a couple of things that are relevant here. You get to choose the level of involvement and intimacy you want in a relationship. If you want to spend a weekend with Greg and he has invited you to it, you get to say yes and not walk that back. You also get to say no to requests. If somebody asks you something, you get to say no if you want to. Now, all of these actions do have consequences, but it is okay to say, no, I've been looking forward to it. I understand it's important to her. And then maybe make a counteroffer, like, when is the next weekend event? Why don't I take this one and then she can have the next weekend event together? That's the first point of negotiation. You also get to have an equal say with each of your partners in deciding the form your relationship with that partner will take. So you not only get to have a say in what your relationship with Greg will look like, you also get to have a say in what your relationship with Alice will look like. Now, you don't have too much of a say in what Greg and Alice's relationship will look like. But by dating her, he has brought her into your relationship, and you get to have a say in what your relationship with her looks like. And you do get to choose the level of involvement and intimacy you want with your partner's other partners. We just mentioned that earlier. And what's really important is you have the right to seek compromise. It doesn't have to be yes or no. It can be, well, maybe yes this time, but here's what I'll want next time because this makes me feel really shitty. Or maybe it's no this time, but let's talk about a compromise that can keep everybody happy the next time something like this comes up. You get to be treated as a peer of every other person, not as a subordinate. Whether she means to or not, Alice is playing a game where she is forcing the person at the point of the V, Greg, to choose. You get to be treated as a peer. Just because you're submissive doesn't mean you're a doormat. And it doesn't matter whether you came first or came later or how significant the relationship is or isn't. None of that really matters. Your agency and your feelings are just as valid as the feelings of anybody else in the relationship and need to be treated accordingly. Which means you folks gotta fucking talk to each other. This doesn't work well for her to communicate something to him and then he communicates it to you. This leads to craziness and chaos. You all need to fucking talk to each other. If you can't all be in the same room, then let's do it over the phone. Let's do it over Skype. Look, I'm coming to this event, but only for long enough so the three of us can sit down and talk because I have some feelings about this. And the only condition of my not attending the rest of the event is for you to sit with me for an hour or two so we can work this out so shit like this doesn't happen again. Because it's not okay for you not to have a say in these things.
Well, that's absolutely true, but I don't necessarily know that you can expect positive results from demanding a conversation with somebody who doesn't want you to exist.
Indeed. That's going to be a really tough one, but the thing is, I feel really strongly about this. I don't like being a pawn in somebody else's game. I don't like when somebody basically makes an ultimatum and forces my partner to make a decision about whether to be with me or not. And forces to ask me whether I'm going to attend something or not. That's just not cool.
Well, let's be clear here. Greg, you fucked up.
Yeah.
That's true. Disinviting partner A because partner B is uncomfortable is not a smart move on a number of levels. That's true. That doesn't mean that she's gonna get partner B to talk to her or interact with her in any way. Here's the thing, Rose. Once again, well, first of all, you got a right to go to whatever fucking show you want to. And if it's going to make somebody be uncomfortable that you're there, guess what? That's somebody else's issue. So if you really want to go to any one of these events, you take your fine little self there and go. And to hell with anybody that don't like it. At the first level, that's just got to be said. When I got done reading that, and I've had a little bit of drink, and I've been working all day, and when I got done reading that letter, I was like, oh, no, he didn't. And don't get me wrong, Greg. I don't know you. I have no idea about the sum total of your personality, and we all make mistakes. I'm not saying that you're a bad person at all. What I am saying is this is a mistake. You cannot disinvite partner A because partner B has become uncomfortable. That's on partner B. Now, you can work out a system where in future events you take turns and you go saying that you're primarily going to be with one of them or exclusively even. At this event, you will be my focus. Next event, it's somebody else's turn to be my focus, including me. I might go to an event where I'm my focus and you all be hanged. I'm going to pick somebody up I don't know at the bar and bring them home. That might be true too. But the point is, once that invitation was sent and accepted, to rescind it in the face of partner B's uncomfortableness is a mistake. It makes Rose feel bad. And it would make any of us feel bad. How can it not? So having said that now, Rose, since you're the one who wrote the letter, you got to figure out how important these events are to you. Is it really something where you're like, you know what? The only reason I was going was because Greg was into it and I don't care. Then you can easily say, Greg, I will never go to one of these events with you. But when you go to one of those, I want to have a weekend away with you where we go do our thing. How does that sound? Can we negotiate something like that? Or if not a 1-to-1 ratio, maybe a 1-to-2 ratio or something. Figure out what you need, Rose, and express that to Greg independent of whatever Alice wants. Doesn't matter. Let you own your own victory conditions and let Alice own hers. Now, if one of your victory conditions is going to these shows, you have every right to say, Greg, I want to be able to go to one of these shows with you. And that means that not with Alice. Take turns. Do one every once in a while. Go to a smaller one. That's not unreasonable.
You know, I think one of the really important points in here that I think Rose was really good to notice about herself is she said, She minds because she feels like Alice is trying to push Rose out of Greg's life.
Oh, and that actually brings up, I'll let you finish with then.
That, I think, is really valid. Really hard for me to imagine a human being who wouldn't feel that way in this situation. So it's not about just scheduling the different shows. That's sort of the logical way to look at it. I think it's really important to say that, and to say that to Greg. And if at all humanly fucking possible, to talk to Alice about that too. Now, I know she's very hesitant or resistant to that, but really, that's an important feeling, and all the negotiations in the world aren't going to be helpful if that feeling isn't addressed.
Which feeling?
The feeling like somebody who won't talk to her is trying to push her out of Greg's life.
Now, see here, and I'm going to take a slightly different spin on that. I'm going to agree that that feeling makes it difficult, but I'm going to say to you that you have no ruby in your forehead, and you really don't know what Alice's motivations are. You really don't know what she's trying to do. And the more you try to tell yourself you do, the crazier you're going to make yourself. Alice's intentions don't matter. The behavior of everybody involved does, specifically Greg. The operant thing that has happened here is that Greg has withdrawn his invitation to you. It's between you and Greg. Alice doesn't matter. Whether or not...
Rose's feelings matter, though.
Well, Rose's feelings matter. And Rose, I'm inviting you to focus your feelings on what matters, Greg's behavior. Put Alice out of your mind. You can't know what Alice is thinking. You can't know her intentions. You're not talking to her. She's not your partner. Greg is. If what you want is to be able to go to these events with Greg, tell Greg that. And tell Greg, furthermore, you're willing to share and trade off with some ratio. But really what then happens is up to Greg. When you're trying to figure out what Alice is thinking, you're setting yourself up to feel bad.
Well, that's true. I do think she has a valid point, though, in saying she feels like she's being pushed out of his life. Whether it's Alice or not, whatever, you're right that she doesn't know Alice's motivations. But if she feels like she's being pushed out of his life, then that is something that she and Greg need to address.
Precisely. And that's my point. Not her and Alice. Her and Greg need to address it.
Now, that being said, I have never known a situation to go well when the person at the point of the V is the only one communicating with the people at the edges of the V. This is just, I just got to throw this out there. This just doesn't fucking work, right? If she's talking to him and you're talking to him, you two never work to each other. See, this is why I have to meet my metamours, because I've never seen a situation, well, maybe it's like an occasional partner every now and then, but if you're trying to have two full-on, long-term loving relationships, that dynamic is just, let's diplomatically call it problematic.
As intimacy increases, it becomes more and more difficult. I think that is true. Yeah.
So I hope that was helpful, and I hope we gave you a couple of ideas in addressing that very sticky situation without just smacking Greg upside the head. Dude.
No. Again, Rose, remember that you deserve to be treated well.
We all do. And now on to something much easier to answer. This is from Anonymous, who wrote in and said, it's not really a relationship question, but maybe something you could answer. For those of us with male plumbing, after we ejaculate, for about 5 minutes or so, we experience a bit of a bliss state, as if all of our needs have been fulfilled and we could want for nothing. It's a dramatic moment of mental clarity and peace of mind. For people with female plumbing, I've heard that some people squirt. My question is, after they do so, is it followed by a similar bliss state? Or when is a similar bliss state experienced for those with female plumbing?
You have female plumbing.
I have female plumbing. In my experience, well, actually, I do know that most women experience most orgasms clitorally rather than through the G-spot, which is the one that tends to cause the squirting. Most orgasms are clitoral, so most of the time that bliss state is going to come about through a clitoral orgasm. I say most of the time because everybody's a little bit different, but 80 to 90% of female orgasms do tend to be clitoral, not G-spot squirters. Now, I've been fortunate to have both in my life. There are a couple of, there's one particular behavior that causes me to squirt. And when I do squirt, it definitely does not feel the same. It's not the full-on body orgasm. It doesn't leave me in as much of a bliss state. In fact, I usually tend to giggle because I just feel very silly squirting. I feel like I'm peeing it out. It's just very silly to me. And so it's pleasurable and it's nice and it's different. But really, that awesome bliss, oh my God, the earth shook. Nothing else in the life matters except now I want a pizza. That's the clitoral orgasm for me. And feel free to write in polyweekly@gmail.com if your experience is different.
So I don't have female plumbing, but I will say as a student of anatomy, there is much discussion going on right now reducing the differentiation between the G-spot and the clitoris, that in fact the G-spot is the roots of the clitoris that extends back in through the anatomy there. Just so you guys know, we have read about that and we're not ignoring it, although I'm not going to argue with anybody's differentiation of orgasm. Here's the thing. It's not the squirt that produces that feeling of euphoria. It's the orgasm itself. A lot of men think that the squirt is the orgasm. It's not always. As soon as you get an electrode up your butt and you squirt and you haven't come, you'll understand. It's also true.
As soon as that happens.
It's also true with enough tantric work and muscle isolation and exercise and personal exploration, you can learn to separate your orgasm and your ejaculation naturally and in your perceptual field. So it's not the squirt on either gender that produces that state of euphoria, but in fact, the orgasm itself, which is an entire cascade of biological reactions that are happening, not just the squirt.
I highly recommend Barbara Chalker's book, The Clitoral Truth, if you want to read all kinds of fascinating stuff about female orgasm.
But the straight answer to do women experience moments of bliss after orgasm is yeah, pretty much.
It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly Polyamorists everywhere.
So our Happy Poly moment this week is from a listener who wrote in, and I neglected to write down the name, oops, sorry, Anonymous, who said, I've been poly my whole life, always loving connecting with people deeply and being attracted to and interested in multiple people. In fact, I found a journal entry from when I was 17, I'm 33 now, where I even described my ideal relationship as polyamorous. I don't think I even knew what the word meant or even really understood back then, but the seeds were always there. Fast forward to the past few years, my husband and I have always had sort of an open relationship. I haven't dated anyone seriously, but he has, and it was, well, bumpy. Mostly because I didn't feel respected and they weren't poly. There you go. I know, I kept warning him, date your species. So with those past forays, it just ended in emotions and drama and struggle. He was starting to think I wasn't poly because of all the conflict and emotional breakdowns I was having, but I maintained it was because I didn't feel respected and safe, and partner selection and how they play into our life is important to me, being able to be friends with my metamours. Fancy that. Yeah. Fast forward to now, and we're casually dating the same person, someone who's also poly. Huzzah! And it's so easy. They're big on communicating with all parties. I feel close to them as a friend. I trust them. I feel the same and respected. It makes all the difference. I can walk in on them snuggling. I can be comfortable and not anxious when they hang out alone. And it's so comfortable in a group setting. It feels great. I used to think I had a problem with intimacy in front of me, but again, it's all about the person. I can watch them make out and not have a problem. It's hot even. I don't even have a problem with them sharing my bed. I don't feel trapped and anxious in my own house when they're over and alone. I feel comfortable walking into a situation and interacting or communicating any needs. We've had some, even a lot of experiences together, but it doesn't have to always be that way. Threesomes are great, but when I think of them being together without me, I don't feel jealous, just happy. We were all snuggling together this morning in bed, and it took so much willpower to be an adult and go to work while they slept. But I had no negative emotions about the thought of someone else waking up in my bed with him. It just all feels wonderful, and I can't wait to see how each individual relationship, as well as the group dynamic, progresses. We're all into maintaining each individual person's agency and open communication for any issues, but we haven't had any so far, so I have high hopes. See, this is what happens when you can talk to your metamours.
That is really wonderful. What a great wonderful. Happy poly moment.
And it really just goes to show that what Franklin says is true. 99% of poly dating success, or really any dating success, is partner selection.
Absolutely. Finding the right match of people is what matters.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for today's show. I want to give a shout out to our awesome Poly Weekly Playmates for their generous donations this week. Oh, and I also saw some donations go in that I haven't put in the show notes. I will thank you next week, I promise.
Thank you.
We do keep this resource free, and we have helped hundreds of thousands of people navigate their introduction to and success with polyamory. Your donations keep the podcast free for everyone, both inside and outside the community. So again, thank you. If you have questions, comments, or feedback, email polyweekly@gmail.com, call 802-505-POLY, or if you're listening to us through an app, you can push that handy Contact Us button in the app. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/polyweekly. I had to think about that for a second. And you can find us on Twitter at polyweekly and at cunningminx, and at RelateCon at the end of the month. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Maybe you listen on Apple Podcasts, but if your friend has an Android phone, we have an app. If we're on Google Play Music, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, and I finally submitted all the information for us to become an Alexa Skills. So very soon, not yet, but hopefully soon, you will be able to say, Alexa, play Poly Weekly. Or play Polyamory Weekly. Oh shit, I forget which one I said.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, coming soon.
Both.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. And remember,
it's not all about the sex.